Jess, welcome to the Let's Give a Damn podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I thank you for doing it so last minute as well.
Yeah.
I had another guest, and I wanted to have you on from the moment that I met you. I did, and I'm going to tell people how we met here in a second. If with your permission, I'll tell people how we met because it was a funny moment. But I knew I wanted to have you on, and then my other guest was not nailing down a date, and I was like, "This is the week to have Jess on." And you're the last episode before the election.
Oh, God, help us all.
And so, yes, God, all the gods help us. So yeah, we met like a month ago, not even a month ago, under a month ago, half a month ago, a couple weeks.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. We met here in New York. I was managing a tour for UNRWA USA with Motaz Aziza, and you came to the event, and I didn't know, I knew of you, I was following So Informed, but I didn't know sort of what you looked like and everything. And we had a list of VIPs. And we tried to call in special guests because everybody's very important, but you were a VIP. And you were like, "Hey, we have wristbands that we need to get. We were told to get wristbands." And I was like, who are you? And you said, "I'm so informed," which makes total sense since you are the creator of So Informed. But it was a really funny moment that I won't forget how we met ever because of how you introduced yourself.
It was so awkward.
Yeah.
I was
for
cringing.
A second.
I'm cringing about it right now.
Don't. Because that's how you needed to do it. Because then I was like, oh yeah, okay. Yes, over here to this table, we'll give you your wristbands. But because of the name of your project, your platform, and you have to introduce yourself as it came off really.
It was, I was embarrassed about it until this moment.
Yeah. But it's gone. Don't be. It was a really great way to meet. It was very memorable.
Thank you.
You made a lasting first impression.
My awkward first impression.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am and who were you? Were you with a colleague or
one of my best friends?
Okay, yeah. Amazing. Okay. Yeah. When I was thinking about that moment, I was like, that moment was so memorable that I never introduced myself to the other person there. So sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah. So I guess let's start. We're going to get to all of your stuff, who you are, how you got here, and So Informed in the election and all that shit. But what did you think of so we met during this incredible event. We took it around the U.S. Motaz was sharing stories, and we had music and art and all kinds of storytelling. And we were raising money for an incredible organization that I think both you and I really appreciate, UNRWA USA. So what was your impression of that event?
It was incredible, but it was also heartbreaking. I feel so sad just hearing the story. Like, we know the stories. We've seen the footage. It wasn't the first time we've seen those images, the footage, anything, but it was still so jarring to have people who have experienced this genocide, who survived this genocide and escaped the genocide in person. It was like... I don't know. I was struggling. I was in the audience crying like silently into my hands. It's a lot, and you want to hug them, but then it's almost like I got the impression that they don't want to be doing this. They don't want to be touring. They don't want to be showing the images and the carnage that we've all already seen. They don't want to be doing it, and so. Yeah, it was
I think if you were to ask Motaz or anybody that has a platform now because of this genocide, hey, would you take the 20 million followers and all the fame and the recognition you get now, or would you want to go back to your little place in Gaza and just be there, existing, being a good brother, friend, son, neighbor? And I guarantee you, without even thinking, he would say, "I want that back."
Yeah,
again, they didn't choose this. It was really tough to hear those stories over and over again, and to really be behind the scenes to see how much of a struggle it was to even for him to get to prepare himself to go out there and tell these stories over and over again. I don't think he didn't want to.
Yeah.
Some nights he just didn't want to. And part of me was like, as the manager, I'm like, you got to do it. Like, people came to hear from you. They want to see you. They want to meet you. Like, you have to do this. But the other part, take off the manager the manager uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I fucking get it.
Yeah.
Like, go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, shut off your phone and go to bed and just sleep for as long as you need to. Like, to just forget about all the things that. So it was it was very energizing. We raised a lot of money for UNRWA USA, money that right now is in Gaza being used to educate and to feed and to house all of these innocent Palestinians. But so it was good in that regard. But
It was brutal. I mean, I brought my dog, so it was nice that he got to meet Penny, and he was petting her and he was loving on her. So that I felt like that was a nice little escape from it was chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you take that in when somebody's standing in front of you telling you?
Yeah.
So in the audience, it was difficult, and I can't even imagine how difficult that was for him. Honestly, you could tell the pain is like palpable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my partner and kids came in New York because we live here. They came to see me because I had been gone for a week, and also to meet him. And before we went in, the kids were like, "Oh, they've been following his journey and his stories for a year. We haven't shielded our kids from anything. Like, they have seen everything, and I think they need to see everything because they're growing up in a world where rich Westerners are paying for it. They're using and I told them that over and over again. I was like, I work hard to defeat things like this, and the taxes that I pay are paying for this. That's the clusterfuck that we sort of live in. Yeah. But when they arrived to see, they're all nervous, and I was like, listen, I get it. But also, the only thing that this young man is famous for, the only reason he has fame is because Israel had bad aim. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't think he was on a top wanted list?
Oh, yeah.
He is the most popular journalist, one of the most popular journalists on the planet right now, and definitely the most popular Palestinian journalist. You don't think they wanted him dead so badly?
Yep.
The only reason that we have him in the room with us is because they
couldn't kill him.
Are incredibly incompetent, right? So yeah, it was wild. I am in the intro of this episode. I will have explained more about, because it's the first episode since the tour. I will explain more about the tour and all of that. So we won't get into it more. But I'm so glad that you got to experience it. I'm glad that you got to experience it and feel all of the feelings, the crying and the moments of hope that I hope you felt there as well. We have so much to dig into.
Oy, yes, we do.
But before we get to your current work, So Informed, something that millions of people rely on for news, storytelling, I think bits of hope, bits of clarity. Before we get to all of that, who in the hell are you?
That's a good
Where
question.
did you come from? So let's start back at the beginning. Like, who are the people, places, and things that made you who you are today? And you can go back as far as you want. Some people start from the very beginning. I always appreciate that, but you can start from whatever sort of pops up that led you to this moment. Let's walk through that journey together.
Sure. I was born in Connecticut. I grew up in northern Connecticut, right on the border of Massachusetts, in what is technically a small town, even though there are a lot of people there. I grew up next to a cornfield, which I think is important because people think Connecticut, they think like Stamford, and they think rich Connecticut. No, I grew up next to a cornfield. My parents got divorced. I was living with my mom. She had no money. So I've been working since I was just turned 15. So I think there's this really frustrating for me narrative that's been pushed largely by Zionists as of the last 3 or 4 years, that I'm this like rich kid from Connecticut. That's just not true.
Yeah.
That's not how I grew up. I don't relate to that at all. My mom and I laugh about it frequently. Like, fuck no, you're not.
Yeah.
I've actually never shared this before. I struggled so much in high school. I was like super depressed kid, and I struggled with bullying a lot, and I dropped out of high school. Halfway through my senior year, I dropped out of high school.
Because it was so intense.
It was too much. Like, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And so I was like struggling with my classes. I really only wanted to take English because I wanted to be a writer. My mom was fighting with the school all the time. She's like, she doesn't need to be like in wood shop class.
Right.
Like, what the fuck is she going to do with that?
Yeah.
So my mom like went to bat for me a lot, and we figured out a way where I could technically drop out and take adult education classes at night. And I ended up graduating 2 or 3 months before everybody else did with
Wow.
my diploma. I have a high school diploma,
Yeah.
but I just did it like online. And then a couple nights a week, I would go in and take tests and sit in front of one of my teachers from my high school was like the continuing education teacher. And he was like, wow, you're doing a lot better now that you're not in that environment. Like you're acing math. I thought you didn't know math.
Wow.
So yeah, I've never shared that because people like to use that against me, I think. And
I think it's a for you. I think it's a
yeah,
pro
yeah,
because it shows that you didn't. I think there's a lot of people that might have just said fuck it and like not tried to, even though you were close to the finish line. Like I know people that were like, that wasn't for me.
yeah,
I chose a different path, and you fought through that and you worked with your mom to like figure that out. That I think that's a pro.
yeah. I think it was just like I wanted so desperately to get out of the town I was living in, which
Yeah.
is big, like because it's cornfield and tobacco fields. So it's a lot of that kind of
Interesting.
energy.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah.
A lot of people who think they're like country, but they're like, you're in Connecticut. So
Yeah.
you're, so it was strong, like Republican energy.
Sure.
The town is split in half. So it's like historically split. I think there's like a river or something, or like a train tracks that split the town. So half the town is poor, half the town is not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was living on the poor side, and my father and my brother were on like the wealthier side of town. So it was this kind of weird, like I understood the class divide, and I fucking hated it. I went to the poor high school. My brother went to like the good high school. So it was just, I didn't like it there ever. So the second I turned 18, I enrolled at like a for-profit scam college in the city here
Perfect.
so that I could get the fuck
Yeah.
out. And they had rolling admission. So I started in July. I turned 18 in May. So I got out and I have never gone back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were on the poor side. Your dad and brother were on the rich side.
Yeah.
If it's not prying too much, how did that happen? Like, did your dad, was it a better job that your dad had, or
Yeah.
was it? So yeah, it was, he had the better job, the better.
Yeah.
And was he, when they were married, was he like the breadwinner? Was
Yeah.
he? Yeah. So he continued his thing, and mom had to figure out now how to make a living now that they were
and
separated.
he's just such a motherfucker. He
Yeah.
bankrupted my mom when they were getting divorced. Like he was taking her to court just because he wanted to dry her out of all her cash. And
Yeah. And
she didn't have a lot to begin with. So he dragged that divorce and like the child custody hearings and everything. That was dragged on for years. And she struggled. She had to get like second, third jobs. Yeah. I have a lot of respect for like her tenacity and her kind of, she taught me work ethic, and she taught me how to like get my shit together when I'm on my ass kind of. So that helped me later in life.
Yeah.
I came to find out that would help me later in life, but yeah, that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Single momming is ridiculously hard. Was there a community around you all, or was it just you two?
I have an older sister she's 7 years older than me. So I don't want to say she like helped raise me, because I don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think she would laugh in my face if I said that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
having somebody who was older around definitely helped. I was 10 when my parents got divorced. So my sister was shortly after that. She was in college, but it was like having another adult around. So I think that helped my mom. And my younger brother, he lived with my father.
Okay, so you moved to the city as soon as you possibly can.
Oh God, yeah.
But you said it was a scam college.
Yes.
So how did that pan out for you?
It was the Art Institute of New York City,
It sounds not scammy.
It sounds not scammy because the Art Institute in Chicago is legit.
Yep.
But the Art Institute, it's like now defunct, maybe? I don't know. And nothing was accredited. Like it was a scam. I knew it was a scam. Shortly after I started, Occupy Wall Street popped up. That took my attention. I was out doing that, not going to classes.
Yeah.
And then I was going to classes and I was like, this is also fucking stupid. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not artistic. I don't want to be doing this. So I stopped going after my first semester.
And did you ever go back?
No,
Okay.
no.
You and me both.
Yeah.
I quit college. I quit college for I was in Bible college, like a
Oh
theology
God. Oh
school.
wow.
At the time, I was going to I thought that I would become some sort of a clergy.
Wow.
That's my upbringing, is like very conservative Christian.
Okay.
And it was still hanging on. And I actually still am a Christian, but like way different kind.
Mm-hmm.
I had to change pretty much everything about my belief system and about how I lived to still be a Christian today, of all times in history,
Yeah.
where Christians are they are literally the worst people that I know every single time.
Yep.
But I dropped out because I just felt like, this is going to sound so stupid and arrogant, but like I just wasn't, my professors they weren't actually teaching me anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a big reader and a big, big researcher. And like, if I needed to find something out, I would go learn it. I would go watch, I still watch lectures on YouTube. And I'm still very like, I'm in learning mode all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a second, I am paying so much money for you to kind of teach me stuff that I'm not enjoying learning.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner and I, we had gotten married recently. We were poor as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, most of my money is going to pay for this school because I didn't want to get into debt. So I was like, I'm not getting into debt. I'm going to pay off semester by semester.
Wow.
And it just got too much. And I was like, I'm out. So here we are.
Look at
crushing
us.
it. I think we're crushing it.
Yeah.
Without college degrees. I'm not saying they're bad, but
Yeah.
they are. I think we're not going to talk about this today because that's a whole different conversation. But I think most higher education is fairly scammy. I'm not saying, again, learning, I'm all about it. I am all about it. But the amount of money they charge you, the debt that they saddle you with, the amount of constraints they put you on you for decades, in exchange for what? Like, most of my friends that have, undergrad and grad degrees are not using their degree.
Yeah.
Almost in any way, shape, or form. Now, that might get them a job interview over me.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, cool. I'll just fight harder and impress them and I'll get the job anyway, right? If I wanted a job. So yeah, I think it's mostly scammy. So good on us for, I guess, recognizing that.
Yeah.
Without even knowing that we really recognized it.
I recognize it 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, one of my high school teachers, who is probably he's the singular reason that I probably didn't drop out sooner. He believed in me. He thought I was talented. He told me that. And that was rare for any teacher in that school. I went to a public school. And he had told me, like, you don't need a college degree to learn how to write. You already know how to write.
Yeah.
You just need to know, like, the basics, like punctuation. Like, you don't need somebody to teach you how to have a voice if you already have one.
Yeah.
And so that was maybe my junior year when everybody was like, you have to start applying to colleges and do it. And then that stuck with me where I was like, I was thinking about enrolling at Brooklyn College for journalism when I dropped out of the Art Institute. And then I was like, but why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
So his words stuck with me. And I still think about that like probably once a month now. And that was a long time ago. So
yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
Good for us. Okay. So you dropped out of college.
I did.
So that's still teens or early 20s?
I was 18. I was still 18.
Yeah.
It was 2011.
So what did you get into next? Like, I want to start drawing some I want to start
drawing my life.
Yeah.
Let's draw my life.
I want to figure out the timeline
Yeah.
here to how we got to this point.
Yeah.
So what did you do next that continued you on this path toward, really, we're getting to, we'll head toward 2020 when you started So Informed, right? So yeah, what happened after that when you dropped out?
I dropped out, was very, very poor, which is very difficult in the city, especially when you're 18.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get real specific. I took like a seasonal job at Macy's Herald Square.
Yeah.
I was like struggling to afford cigarettes. I was like, I couldn't function. I was eating like ramen noodles. And my partner at the time, who is my ex-husband, that would come to be something at some point. But
you got married and then unmarried at some point.
Yes, I did. Him and I were kind of like, fuck this. Like, we can't survive in the city at this point. And we were doing a lot of Googling. We were staying at an Airbnb for a month in Gramercy. So we gave ourselves like a month once they kicked us out of the dorms because we stopped going to school. He
Yeah.
stopped at the same time I stopped.
Same school or different school?
Same school,
Same
different
school.
reasons.
Yeah.
Mine was driven like having seen the real world, and his was kind of, we
Yeah.
won't get into that,
Different
but
story for a different
yeah,
day.
yeah. So we gave ourselves pretty much a month. Like, we'll see if we can make it work here in this Airbnb, figure out if we can get an apartment. Didn't end up happening. And then we found maybe a Reddit thread or something of people talking about how Austin, Texas was the new Brooklyn. And we were like, oh, fuck. Like, let's go explore that.
Yeah.
So went and stayed with my mom for a couple months. I got a waitressing job and made a bunch of money in Rhode Island. And then we moved. We literally packed up a car and drove with everything we owned to Austin. We'd never been there before. We just like looked at pictures online, signed a lease for an apartment over the phone.
Wow. And it's probably a lot cheaper than like now it's probably ridiculous, but then it wasn't on the radar.
Yeah, this is like early 2012.
Yeah.
So it was still weird. Like keep Austin weird. It was still weird. Yeah, we had a 2-bedroom apartment. I think it was like $1,400, which is now impossible to even get a studio there for that amount.
Closet.
But yeah, so moved there. Struggled like fuck. Like still struggling to acclimate to the idea that I was in Texas.
Yeah.
And then I took a job fundraising, like a paid fundraiser for the Obama re-election campaign in Texas. And that was my, like, that's how I got into politics, was doing that.
And do you regret working with Obama? I mean,
no, because I don't think Mitt Romney would have been any better, if we're being honest.
True.
At that time, I was not as into it now, like as I am now. So
no, there was back then the energy was so incredible.
Yes, it was.
And we weren't thinking this guy's going to become a pretty wild war criminal and like going to make some pretty, like always going to be the charming Obama.
Yeah.
Like, but he's a pretty...
He's a fucking war criminal.
He's a war criminal in every way, shape, and form. And so we didn't know that at that point. It was all hope. It was all like, oh my God, first black president. And this guy's like, I don't want to hang out with presidents. They all look and feel so boring to me. But like Obama was like, we could hang, like he had this like cool factor that was really, I was all in back then.
Yeah. And I mean, this was for like his reelection too. So I think I wasn't paying attention to the airstrikes that he was leveling, and I wasn't paying attention to that.
I wasn't at the time either.
Yeah.
No.
I was, honestly, he got elected. I was still in high school. I was all for it. And then reelection, I was just like, Mitt Romney fucking sucks. And I was in Texas.
Yeah.
One day I left work and there was like a pro-life, air quotes, pro-life rally of like thousands of people. And that was the first time I saw that in person. And I was like, oh, fuck this shit. Like, I don't want this to be the whole. So I got even like, I went more hard for Obama. And I think that I'm very glad I'm not in that mentality, that like liberal mentality anymore.
Yeah. We're so far so
far. But
I used to think it was like when I went from being, I was never a conservative, but that was the world I grew up in. I always thought differently, but I was in a conservative bubble.
Yeah.
And when I went from being in a conservative bubble to saying that I'm a liberal, it felt like, it felt so wild and so dramatic and so drastic. And now liberals are the bane of my existence.
The fucking worst.
Like they are truly some of the most unexceptional, non-critical thinking humans that I've ever met. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Your family, are they? How do you identify? Like, when people say, "Where are you politically?" Like, what do you say? Do you have a way to say? I mean, I always say like I'm as left. Like, you can't find anyone more left. I'm a leftist.
Yeah.
But is that what? Yeah.
People have been calling me an anarchist lately, I think as like a dig at me. And I'm like, fuck it. I'll adopt that too.
Yeah. It's not the burn you think it is, sweetie.
No.
I'm okay with that. Yes. Tear down the empire. Please sign me up. Your family though, are they along for the ride, or where are they politically?
My father is a Trump supporter. And before Trump came onto the scene, he was just like a nasty Republican, like
Yeah.
as racist and hateful as it gets. Like, yeah. So unfortunately, my brother grew up with that. And so he adopted a lot of that.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's sad. I'm sad about that frequently. My mom is definitely progressive. My sister is progressive. My extended family has disowned me because first it was
Same with mine to some extent.
summer 2020, Jess is Antifa. I was like, of course I'm anti-fascist. Why the fuck wouldn't I be?
Yeah.
Right? Like what? I don't have a card carrying like membership to Antifa, but sure, yeah. So I got disowned by my whole family essentially. So it's like my mom and my sister are
Those are your people.
Yeah, they're in line with a lot of what I think. I don't think they're in line with a lot of what I do.
Yeah.
Less my mom. She wants to take to the streets with me, but yeah.
My dynamic is interesting because I'm Guatemalan. My dad was born in Guatemala and then I grew up in Guatemala, but he came to the States as a refugee at the beginning of the 1960 to 1996 Civil War there, that the U.S. There was a period of genocide during there that the U.S. paid for.
Of course.
So my dad is a very brown, pretty poor refugee. Still to this day is like has no wealth to speak of. Has struggled his entire life. And this man, I love him. I really do. We have a good relationship. But this man and several of my siblings, I'm one of 12 kids.
Oh, wow.
Good conservative Christians, just pumping them out. Voted for Trump both times. And it's incredibly wild to me. But I bring that up to say, like, I guess when I hear stories I do have extended family that have disowned me. But so far, my partner's family, who are very conservative, and my family, who are not as conservative, but still somehow founded in their ideology to vote for a rapist, a cheating, lying rapist, as like the Christians that they are. But they haven't. Yeah, it's a weird situation because it would almost be easier if they had disowned me or I had disowned them. I don't want politics to do that, but like I loathe everything about this person so much. And you went and pressed a button several times, like at least two times. He ran twice, so 2 times.
Don't set him up for like voter fraud.
And it's so wild to me, but we've still been able to, I don't know, like I'm going next week. One of my little sisters is getting married and we're all going to be together. Most of us are going to be together. And, I assume that some of them will vote for him again in 2 weeks. And yet we're going to have a good time. We're going to drink a lot together and smoke cigars and hang out and party, even though that is a part of what they've done, and they equally loathe my leftism. They think I'm so far gone, irredeemable. I don't believe in hell, but if there is one, they believe that I'm going to be first in line to go there because of just how crazy left that I am. And so it's interesting the experiences that people have with the political differences. And yours, I don't think, are stemming just from. It's not just that your dad voted for Trump. It's also all the other stuff that he's done to you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's the whole package.
It's a lifetime of rejection of like the racism and hatred and being told for my entire life until I turned 18 that I was the only person on earth that thought the way I thought. And I think that insulated me into such a way where I just like hated everyone. And I think that probably contributed to like...
Well, you were in a small town and you didn't know. You probably to some degree believed that. Like, how am I feeling this way and no one else is feeling this way? It's pretty isolating.
And I think that has been like the biggest fuck you on earth to him, to be like, I don't think that's the case. 3.2 million people think the way I think.
Yeah.
So how does that, like, what does that make you?
Yeah.
I don't talk to him. I have no relationship with him. But if I were to say something, it would be that.
The little I know about him sounds like you made a great decision cutting that off.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the events? I think I know based on the sort of the dates and the timeline, but like, what were the events that led to you starting So Informed.
Mm-hmm. So Obama, that was 2012. I stayed in Texas for a year and then I could not do it anymore. So I came back to New York. My ex and I kind of just struggled a lot. And I think you can, so politicians like to talk to us about how people in this country struggle, but I don't think many of them have actually experienced that struggle. And so that made me more political, having experienced the struggle. Like, as I was getting into politics, I was struggling to fucking survive.
Yeah.
There was one point I was working 3 jobs and still my lights were shut off. Like, I was genuinely struggling. And then I discovered Bernie Sanders and I was like, holy fuck. Like, this guy is talking to me. Like, he sees me and I think he understands me. And it felt like a personal, like, it felt very personal for me because I'd never really heard a politician speak like that before, but also never felt that they were genuine about what they were saying. So it was 2015, maybe 2014, that I started really getting into Bernie.
Yeah.
And that catapulted, I was very anti-Hillary Clinton. To this day, I still am.
Yeah.
I have
also a good decision.
absolutely no respect for her. I was living in California during that election. Bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Devastated by Bernie not being the nominee in 2016. And then she lost and then Trump came in. We know how that went. I was back in New York when Trump, like right after Trump won, I came back to New York, which felt safer, oddly enough.
Sure.
I was in Huntington Beach.
Oh my God.
And I didn't realize until
MAGA haven.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize that when I moved there. I was like, oh, I'm near the beach in California. No, it's a fucking white supremacy town.
The Manhattan Beach City Council last month when we were doing our Unruh USA Anaheim stop, the night before they had voted they became a sister city to one of the cities in Israel or occupied Palestine.
Christ.
Like that's how right and Zionist.
Yeah.
Like you'd think California, sort of a leftist, liberal, progressive haven. There are pockets of that for sure, like LA proper. But when you get to those beach towns, man, it's MAGA all over.
Oh yeah. And I didn't know that. And I think I'm like glad that I bounced around this country so much because I was able to experience things and
it's a good thing.
Get a better understanding of like even these people that I fundamentally disagree with, who like on its face, maybe I hate you.
Yeah.
They still don't deserve this shit happening in this country. And I think that opened up this new door of empathy in my brain where I was like, I can fucking hate you and everything you stand for, but like you also don't deserve what's happening here.
Yeah,
I'm
fighting for you as well.
Yeah. That honestly, as much as I struggled all throughout my earlier life up until like a couple of years ago, like I'm grateful that I did because I met people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I met people who kind of, it made me more empathetic to like the reality in this country, not the shit we see on TV where they're trying to pit us against each other. So, so it was Bernie.
You got radicalized.
Radicalized by Bernie Sanders. Saying that now is kind of ridiculous.
We'll get to current day Bernie and share our disappointment, but
Bernie kind of pushed me way further left than I thought even existed. This like space of community and empathy and what is peddled as radical thought, but is really just like basic human decency, I think.
Yeah.
So Trump took office. That was 2017, his inauguration. And 2019, Bernie announced he was going to run again. I think that was like November, December. It was cold out. I remember that.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, like I'm going to go head first into like volunteering, outreach, doing everything. And then I started the So page in February 2020 because I was doing outreach for Bernie's campaign. And I was like, everybody is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Everybody is so not informed. They're so like brainwashed by this narrative that he's a communist. Like, I wish he was a communist. Like,
Right.
And I was struggling to talk to people like in the Midwest about Bernie. And so I started making graphics, like little slideshows about like breaking down his campaign, who he is. And I was sharing them in like the Bernie groups on Facebook, which was like a lot of volunteers. And that's how the So page started, was just me like making these slideshows to share with other volunteers. And then I just kept going. I was like,
how did you know what to do though? Like, everybody's trying to grow a platform on social media. Everybody's trying to sort of be and stay relevant. You know, everything's changing so much. I guess it wasn't so much algorithms and stuff back then. I mean, it still was, but it wasn't like this was 20 years ago. But it's different than it is today. But how did you know? Yeah, like, did you have were there other accounts that you were like, I don't know, getting some ideas from, or did you just open Canva or open whatever, Adobe, whatever, and just like start designing stuff and putting stuff together?
That's really what it was. I was doing a lot of like infographics for work, like my actual job, which at the time I was working for an audiology group in California, like healthcare, and like making infographics and posters for their offices.
Yeah.
So I was like already kind of doing that with information. And I was like, I'm just going to use Illustrator and like make a new doc and just start.
Yeah.
So it was that. It was not immediately like a platform.
Yeah.
So it was the People for Bernie page shared something. I think I did a post on Medicare for All, and they boosted it on their page. And that is when people started following. But that was like 2 months in. But I started that in February. COVID hit, April? End of March.
Yeah.
So it was like I got a month of like no one was really on their phones. And infographics weren't really a huge thing when I started it.
Yeah.
So it was like COVID hit, and then I was like, all right, motherfuckers need to stay inside. So I'm like making graphics like, here's what the CDC is saying. So those were starting to get shared a lot when people were like forced to stay home on their phones all day. I think it was because of COVID that the page became a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true of other platforms as well, for sure. But again, a lot of people were trying, and yours hit. What was it about the way that you delivered the news, the way that you told stories that resonate? What do you think is connecting with people? Because again, I can find you a lot of other platforms that are doing similar things. Maybe they're even copying you. I don't know, but like they're doing very similar things. And I'm not. We can stop talking about the growth, but I think it's worth mentioning because there are a lot of people out there doing good, trying to do more good, and they're spinning their wheels. And so for a second, I want to sort of like go after, what can you share with other people about the wins and the losses and the frustrations of building this platform? Because you obviously didn't go into it to now have millions of people following you, but that is the reality. And so what do you think is connecting with people that allowed your platform to really grow? I want
to it's awkward for me to talk. I don't know.
No, just say
it's
whatever
such
you think
a personal thing for me. It's never been about me. And that I was so fucking intentional. Like I didn't even have no one knew who was running it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's not about me. No one needs to know. Like, I don't give a shit. Now I'm sitting on a podcast talking about myself, and like, it takes all my soul to do it. Like, it's so personal for me. It started from a personal place of like, I want Bernie to be president because I want better for people. And so I'm going to help people talk about this. But it became so personal. It's like, it's a personal thing. I don't know. Like my heart is in it.
Yeah.
I don't take money for what I do. And I think that's the difference between the So page and other pages. They're getting paid by like the DNC to fucking hype up Kamala right now. Or like at the time, like hype up Biden.
Or like every third post is like, sign up for a Patreon.
Ad, yeah.
Right?
Like,
it's like,
I don't do that. It's genuinely something that I care about. And I think I wasn't afraid. Now I've tried to pull it back, But I wasn't afraid when I started. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Like, I'm going to say what's on my mind in
Yeah.
these posts. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to give you the sources, but I'm also going to tell you how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And
And I think that's actually something important to point out, is that it's a combo of, it's super personal. It's also, there are other platforms like yours.
Yeah.
I could mention names. I won't, because I some of them have been on my podcast. I like them. I think they're fine people, but they produce similar content, but are just too middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And some people like middle of the road. Some people like, they would say very like bipartisan, very, just like we're trying to get everybody around the table. But there aren't as many people that are producing quality content like yours that, again, it's personal, it's quality, and it's don't give a fuck. Like, I don't need you. In other words, because your paycheck is not tied to this.
Yeah.
Say what you need to say.
Yeah.
And, research well and make sure you're not putting out bullshit and misinformation and disinformation. But there's that. It comes across that you don't give a fuck what people think about you, whether they like it or share it. You're putting it out there, and obviously it's resonating with a lot of people, myself included. So I think that comes through.
Thank you. I mean, and it wasn't, so I started it. It was the beginning of pandemic. And then George Floyd was murdered, and we watched that. And then I was out protesting here in the city all the time, and I was going live on the page. So a lot of people were following me because of that, I think, because everybody was stuck inside. I shouldn't have been out. Like, let's just say that for disclaimer. I was wearing a mask, but probably shouldn't have been out.
Yeah.
But I was out, and people were watching what was happening. And it wasn't just in New York. It was in like towns and cities across the country at that time. We were dealing with like a reckoning. And so still to this day, the largest percentage of people that follow the soap page are in New York City.
Wow.
So I built this kind of audience based on like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to give you the information. You're going to see the sources so you know it's legit. And I'm also out in the streets like filming cop cars on fire. So I think it was this mix of like information and activism that drew people in maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Bernie dropped out and it was Biden and Trump. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go so fucking hard on Trump.
Yeah.
I'm going to go so hard because I hate him.
Yeah.
I don't like him. And I was very unapologetic about that in what I was posting.
So 2016, 15 and 16, you get radicalized politically by Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
When did you, so the contents, if people go back, which they should, if you're not following the SO page, like go follow it and even scroll back and you can see sort of, the different things that you took an intense amount of time to like explain and communicate to people. I also want to say, before I get to what I was going to say, because it will feel awkward later to come back to this, is that I also think that people are very excited about the amount of, I don't know what to call it other than alternative media that's sort of popping up all over the place. Like you, Slow Factory, Hassan Piker on Twitch, like them or not, like this is not traditional news. People are getting their news, but they're saying fuck CNN and MSNBC and all these trash, this very biased, partisan, Zionist, capitalist trash. And they're saying, hey, we can go to these creators and I'm not going to, but we're going to watch Hassan stream for 5-6 hours on Twitch, or we're going to go here and we're going to get the news, but in a way that resonates with us and where, again, you're not bought and paid for by anybody. So you're going to tell it like it is. And I can trust you more versus these talking heads on CNN or whatever. And so I think there is also like, we're in an age, I think it started with Trump getting elected the first time. And then I think it really picked up. You're sort of tracking with that. I think with COVID and George Floyd and the sort of Black Lives Matter movement that came out of that. And now even more, like with this genocide that we are incredibly complicit in. Do you see that as well? Like, do you see yourself as an alternative media source, an alternative news platform? Or do you hate everything I just said? And you
No,
want to
like
do something
I
totally
see
different?
the value in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like Democracy Now! Has been kicking ass
Yes.
for what, 20, 30 years? Like
Yes.
they've been around. I think I give people, I share news on the page, you know? I think I've shifted way more towards that in the last 2 years than I was these explainer posts, because I was like, how many times am I going to explain what police and prison abolition is?
Yeah.
And how many different
It
ways
should
do you
take
need
one
to hear
time
it?
to radicalize
Exactly.
people, but yes, yeah,
But
you can only
like,
do it so many times.
and I understand the value, and like the So page has drawn people in who otherwise wouldn't have given a fuck about anything that I've posted or talked about. And it has changed their minds. And I have, at one point when I was spiraling mentally from, because it's a lot of hate. Like there's a lot of love, but there's way more hate. And I had like, I used to screenshot nice messages and send them to my mom. I was like, see, Mom, not everyone is terrible. Like there are people who see value in this. As my mom's like, why the fuck are you doing this to yourself? Like you're crying every day. So I made like a physical book. Like I have a book of like the kindest messages of people who have absolutely no reason to send me these messages. Like they're taking time out of their day to let me know that they have found value in what I've done. And that has kept me going in the times where I'm like, I could just delete this page in 2 seconds. I could disable it right now and no one, it's going to impact no one, you know, like because there's no financial ties to it. So it's this thing that I just keep it going because my heart is in it, but I do know that people get something from it. And I don't know that I would call it alternative media. To like, it's not alternative to CNN.
Right. It's something completely new.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a journalist. And that people say that frequently. It's like fucking Zionists lately are like, what makes you think you're a journalist? Why are you qualified to share the news? And I'm like, because I can. I'm not a journalist, but I can. And people trust what I'm sharing because I haven't been sharing bullshit. Like I'm sharing real things that are happening, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I'm going to share it, and it's going to make you uncomfortable as fuck. And hopefully that pushes you forward instead of remaining in this like complacent CNN Anderson Cooper bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I don't like a word salad from anyone.
Yeah.
Politician, newscaster, anyone. I want to just say things how they are. And so I don't know what that is.
Love that. I would just comment before we move on that I do think you're a journalist. What is keeping you from calling yourself a journalist? Like, what is a journalist? A journalist is someone who sort of captures what's going on and communicates in a certain way. Sure, you don't have some degree from fucking Brown University or whatever, but like you're a journalist, right? In the same way that we could go out and with our phones and take beautiful photos. Yeah. And we could say, yeah, I'm a photographer. Look, the composition's great. The lighting's great. Like I'm a photographer, you know? Like I think so. Or do you not want to be called a journalist? Or you just don't think you're technically a journalist?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things. I think I report. I think I'm a reporter.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, there's a difference there. Yep.
I'm not. So full disclosure, my aunt is a journalist for CBS. I grew up watching her. Mm-hmm. She's like a news anchor. She's a journalist. So that to me, I think is just, that's the box of journalism. I don't fall into that box. Because while I'm reporting and while I'm taking videos and while I'm live streaming, I'm getting arrested and I'm telling cops to go fuck themselves. And like, it's a different, it's like a blend of maybe like activism, journalism, reporting. It's a weird, we need to think of a different word for it. Maybe.
That is our task. Because I think you are that, but I completely agree with you that like, you can either say I'm the new kind of journalist or find something new altogether because I wouldn't want to be lumped in with those motherfuckers. Yeah. Either. Like your aunt's probably a great person, but like there is a, I mean, but there is a, when you think journalist and reporter, like you definitely think somebody safely behind a desk, getting paid an insane amount of money to bullshit you and tell you their version of the events that are unfolding. And I wouldn't want to be associated with that either. But what you are doing is you're probably more of a journalist than they are.
So just a quick story on that, I guess. One of my closest friends who is an organizer in the city, him and I mean, like I say, I helped. I made the graphics for it, like picked the place. But we had a vigil 2 weeks ago. after the hospital bombing and burning alive of human beings that we all witnessed. We had a vigil and CBS showed up. That's where my aunt works. And so I said to the reporter, don't get anybody's faces because I don't want these people getting doxxed. Don't get anybody's faces. Please don't ask people their names. Just be fucking cool if you're going to be here. Don't get the women praying because we had
area,
and
yep.
So she asked if she could interview me. I said, sure. I gave a very honest interview, which obviously never made it to the air. I told her twice who the organizers were, the groups that were organizing this. And then it airs, and it was, ironically, it was my aunt reporting it. And just everybody's fucking faces in the footage. They were just did everything opposite of what I said. They misreported who the organizers were.
Of course.
So I had to text my aunt. I hadn't talked to her in a year. And I reached out and I was like, I don't know how this works once you've reported it on air, but this needs to be corrected. This is wrong. I gave a 5-minute interview that I'm sure you could ask to see that obviously didn't make it to the air. And she apologized and had her supervisors pull it down from their website. So that to me is it was so fucking easy for them to report on this and just do this the right way. And they couldn't even do that. And so that just kind of validated even more, not that I needed it, but the media is just full of shit. So I have a big problem with that. So maybe that's why I don't want to be a journalist.
No, I think you're right. I think it's there's got to be new titles and new categories because the old ones need to go. Just like our old political systems need to go. The way that things have been done is obviously not working. No. It's not working at all, and it's harming a lot of people. So yeah, I completely get that. So now I'm going back to 10 minutes ago when I said I needed to deviate for a second. You were radicalized in 2016 by Bernie Sanders. When were you radicalized about Palestine? How did that happen for you? And which has resulted in you creating a lot of content and holding vigils and going to protests and reporting on them. How did that happen for you?
I mean, I learned about Palestine because like you, I like learning about, I'm a fucking nerd. I was not out doing cool things in high school. I was sitting at home reading Hunter S. Thompson, So I read about Rachel Corrie on Tumblr. So
I remember that.
Yeah.
Tumblr.
Showing our ages. I read about Rachel Corrie and I was like, fuck, this is awful. Pictures of her and the horrific photos of her were on Tumblr. That's how I learned about Palestine in general. I wasn't learning about that in school. So that's how I learned about Palestine. I was learning about the occupation. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a thing. I just spiral. So if I learn about something and it's remotely interesting, I'll spiral. So I was on this for a week in high school. Just I wanted to know everything. But it didn't, I want to say it's fucked. It didn't impact my life as a teenager. I didn't feel the impact of it. I didn't understand the US complicity.
Yeah.
It was brought up a lot during Occupy Wall Street. Palestine was a conversation on the streets. So that was kind of maybe I was 15 when I learned about it. Then I'm 18 and I'm hearing more about it. Didn't really start getting into it until 2015 when Bernie was asked about it a lot. And that was a conversation because it was this Jewish man is running for office. Is he a Zionist? Is he not a Zionist? So that was a lot of the Facebook groups. Facebook is so dead now. It's so funny saying that. But
it was big. I mean,
it was big.
Ago,
yeah.
It was huge.
The Bernie Sanders Facebook groups, it was a lot of that. And it was a lot of people trying to dig into his past and then asking him directly about it. And he was pretty solid at the time. It was he was outspoken about the occupation. And so that was hearing about it again. I feel that was part of I say radicalization. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
Now in looking back.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah. So 2020 made the So page. One of the first people to reach out to me, who is a dear friend now. He runs Let's Talk Palestine. And he's going to laugh if he hears this because I brought him up in another interview I did and he was cracking up. But he was one of the first people to reach out and be like, do you want to do a post together? He didn't have that page. He was just wanted to get this information out. And it was on the annexation of the West Bank. And I thought it was incredibly important. And that was really the first time that I was posting anything that had nothing really directly to do with the US. Like that was my first like foray into international reporting or talking about anything. And so we did that. It was a really powerful post. And that was my first encounter with the Zionists online. And the way that
Even then they were coming
holy
after you.
fuck, man, I was crying for like a week straight because it was like
You hadn't built up your tolerance for them yet.
I just didn't expect that because it was what was happening. They're annexing the West Bank. They're stealing homes. They're stealing land. It's not up for debate, you know? And
yes, you're not a tabloid. You're telling facts,
yes,
the truth.
Yes. And my thing has always been it's so important to include sources so that people who would like, if they want to read more or if they're questioning what they're reading, they can go fucking look. Like, don't trust everything you see on Instagram in a slideshow. Like, go look further into it. Yeah, the way that they attacked me, and there was one point, this one girl, and I'll never forget this, was like demanded to get on a phone call with me.
Mm-hmm.
A phone call. And so thinking about that now, I'm like, that was fucking crazy. I got on the phone with this girl and she was going on and on about how like I need to just embrace Zionism, about how her sister's in the IDF and like I have no idea what they have to go through. And she's going on and on. I let her talk for like an hour. I didn't say anything. And at the end, I was just like, I don't agree with anything you just said. Like, you're not going to get anywhere with me, but I wanted to give you the space to like say what you had to say. And then from that point on, I've just been like, there's been a scarlet A or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been targeted heavily by the Zionists online since then. So my friend who runs Let's Talk Palestine is Palestinian. And so kind of seeing like the way that hatred has impacted him as well, that too was for me like, holy fuck. Like I hate what I'm seeing. I hate these I hate the way that Zionists feel they can move, you know?
Sure.
I hate their fucking ideology. I hate what they stand for. I hate the excuses that they make for what they stand for.
Yeah.
And I think it is a weaponization of something horrific that happened in the past, the Holocaust. And they like to weaponize that to commit another Holocaust.
Yep.
And that's where we're at now. But yeah, my first experience with Zionists was like the most basic, simple, like non-controversial posts of all time about the annexation of the West Bank.
This past year has been the most difficult year of my life. To be a human, to be a parent, to be a friend, to be someone that a number of people with Let's Give a Damn all around the world, you know, look to for direction. I've never, not Trump, not Black Lives Matter, not anything else, have I had more conversations, messages back and forth. I have sent a bajillion, and I'm not exaggerating with that number. That's a real number. And I've sent that many voice messages on Instagram back and forth with people asking. Some are stupid questions and I don't answer those, but the legitimate questions, the ones that I think are coming from a place of, I'm really trying to figure this out. You know, this is what I think that I know. This is what I've seen. This is what I've heard, whatever. Like this is the most incredibly fucked up year of our lives. And we're not even the ones experiencing the genocide.
Yeah.
We are paying for it. And we do live, and we, you know, outside of Israel, the most Zionists on the planet are within a few miles of us, right? Like New York City is where it's at, right?
Yeah.
And so unlike other places where there might be a few Zionists, but you can't really pick them out of a crowd. And then here, you know, I walk out with this or with the shirt or whatever, and, you know, like you'll just see them on the train, just give you these like looks. And I'm like, first of all, fuck you. But also they're just everywhere. Right. So yeah, I think it is especially difficult being wildly pro-Palestine here. And so it has been an incredibly hard year. And I'm so exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm so tired. And again, I'm not saying obviously what they're going through is horrific, but this whole year, this is what I'm getting at. It's like other years as an activist, as a creator, as someone who, I hate this title, but it's people like as someone who is a full-time change maker, like, it sounds so hokey, but like people call me that, as someone who does this stuff full time,
Yeah.
like I have never spent so much time working on, processing through, speaking up about one single thing in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted. Are you exhausted? How are you doing? What are you doing to stay remotely sane? Like, this is fucked up.
Yeah. How am I doing? That's such an odd, like,
We don't get the privilege. We could if you shut your page down and if I shut my stuff down.
Yeah.
But like, we don't get the privilege of like checking out for all that long.
Yeah.
Because again, people are counting on us. We have put ourselves in a position where we are informing people in some way, shape, or form about how to think about it or what's happening, right? So we don't, like, a lot of my friends, they have just, I don't love that they've checked out, but they've checked out for their, I get it. Take care of yourself, take care of your people. I totally get it. But they can do it because they work at fucking like Home Depot and they show up and they leave and it's, check out and it's done and they can go back to their, right. They can do that. We can't. So like, it's tough, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like that about everything since I started the So page, where it's like, I can't stop. Like, I can't stop even for a day. Like, I can't stop. This is so different. This is when you're hearing children on a video from Gaza asking people, please keep talking about this. And it's like a 6-year-old child. Who the fuck am I to stop talking about? You know what I mean? Like, it's that. And I think it's one of my friends and I recently had a conversation. I counted how many protests I've been to since October of last year because we got pissed. Like, he's an incredible photographer and he's out on the streets every single protest. Like, his work is amazing. I shared on the So page. I'm like honored to be sharing his work. We met out at a protest. And he posted something. Someone was like, oh, all you do is sit online, saying this to me. All you do is sit online. Like, you don't actually get out of your house and do anything. And he got so offended. Like, what the fuck? You of all people. And it was like shortly after I got arrested too. So I was like, I'm going to count. This was 2 months ago. I had been to like 79 protests.
In a year.
In less than a year at that point.
10 months.
And it's been like more than that now. And I've started in the last several months, I've started like helping to like on the organizing side too. And I've gotten to experience that. And so I think that is what's keeping me going. Being surrounded by other people who are
incredible,
very, very driven. And, the group that I am out at all of their actions. And I've had the honor of being able to like work behind the scenes with them is Within Our Lifetime. They're the most principled group in the city. They're actually doing the fucking work. They're actually Palestinian. Like, they're actually in this for the right reasons. They're not taking money from anybody. And now they're being targeted heavily right now. There's a campaign being spearheaded by fucking Zionists, obviously, but to get them classified as a hate group.
Oh my God.
In the city. And so they're like appealing to fucking Richie Torres.
Of course, Richie.
And they're appealing to
Richie.
Eric Adams. Yeah. And Kathy Hochul, who also fucked Kathy Hochul. I helped get her elected and I'm sick about it every day. Like, not that Lee Zeldin would have been better, but still, it's like I struggle, honestly, on a personal level with how many of these politicians I had previously amplified, interviewed, put, all my effort into getting them elected. And now they're like the most genocidal psychopaths you can imagine. John Fetterman.
Oh God. What an enormous disappointment. One of the biggest.
One of the biggest. Yeah.
I was rooting for what we probably both rooted for was like this guy who was like pretty disheveled and just like didn't give a fuck. That's what I liked about him is that he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So I was like, we need more people like this.
Yep.
As lawmakers in the halls, sitting around like we need more John Fettermans. Like the idea of a John Fetterman. Now I would say that we don't need more John Fettermans. Fuck him. But like I fought so hard. I was so proud of like I felt like he was kind of. I mean, he's a big guy, but like underdog, like bucking the system.
Yeah.
One of the most obviously I didn't vote for him. I live here, but I put time into convincing people in Pennsylvania, and how many people have we? Obama, Hillary Clinton, like all
Oh,
these
God.
people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
2020, you know, it was one of the most horrific votes. I already knew back then it was one of my least favorite votes that I had ever cast was for Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. It was not a vote for Joe Biden. It was a vote. It was a fuck Trump vote. But I still regret it. Like
Yeah.
if I could go back now, I would have said, let the chips fall where they fall. I'm
Yeah.
not voting for that guy.
Yep.
You know, but yeah, we have done this so many times, and it's something that we have to learn from. I don't even think it's a live with, because it's part of life. Like we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
But we have to learn from it for sure.
It's definitely propelled me so far away from helping campaigns. And I was working with so many I was working with the Biden campaign. And then they were like, he won. His transition team was getting me on a Zoom, like, we'd love to keep this going. You know, we want to have this partnership with you. And this was in December.
Before inauguration.
Yeah. And I said very plainly to them, no, because I want to be able to criticize him. I got him in. I helped you get him in.
Yeah.
I want to be able to criticize him. So I can't have any sort of partnership with you. And then I was put on a press list, which is another very interesting aspect of politics, is the way that they'll feed things to the press that are only positive things. I didn't share any of that shit. He took office. He dropped some airstrikes on Syria. Immediately, I was like, fuck this guy. And people hated it. How dare you criticize him? And that has been the tone since he took office. How dare you criticize him? But I was very like subscribed to this idea that the only way to tear the house down is to get inside and tear it down. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest example of that is AOC, who is like a colossal fucking disappointment. Because I believed in AOC. I went hard for AOC.
Yep.
For what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yep.
You get in, you get corrupted immediately. The only people that they couldn't corrupt are now not in office, at Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, who I am proud to have helped get into office.
Yep.
And I'm proud of what they did while they were in office. And I'm proud that they stood on their principles. And now they've been eliminated. And now they've been eliminated. And I think that is the perfect example of politics in this country.
Yep.
It's like, you can't have principles. You can't have ethics. You can't have really a strong stance on what matters.
Yep.
Or they're going to make sure that you don't have that position anymore.
I've been urged many times to run for some sort of office.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you couldn't pay me enough money to, like, literally, I don't care what it is, because I don't believe in the system anymore. It doesn't work. It works for a few. And if you are principled, they will kick your ass out the door as soon as they possibly can.
Yep.
So you spend, you get 4 years to do what? Fight against these people that already want you out. Mm-hmm. They didn't want you to get in, and now you're in, and they want you out, and they're going to fight every single day to get you out. So you spend your entire time just trying to survive instead of actually doing your job. Absolutely not. I need to stay in a position where I can actually affect change, where I can make change, where I can rally people, where I can build community, where we can move inch by inch toward collective liberation, and not be weighed down by any having to wear a suit or a tie or show up at some meeting that's going to go nowhere. So I guess let's move into our last section.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about for today anyway is this will release on the Tuesday, a week before Election Day.
Let the listeners know I just my spine straightened when you said that.
But that also might have just been a reaction to, how painful thinking about this election is.
Yeah.
So I want to begin by reiterating that I have tried very hard, reiterating to the listeners, I've tried very hard. I haven't always succeeded, but I've tried very hard, even in this election, to not tell people how to vote. I don't want to tell you how to vote. Mm-hmm. I have incredible friends. I have incredible friends that somehow in their conscience, they are damn givers. They fight for all the right things. And where they have landed is, we've got to vote for Kamala. Like, fuck her, but we've got to vote for her because Trump will be worse, even for Palestine, And they figured out how they can do that. And I, not once. Now, I have told them to lay off when they try to pressure me for an answer, but I'm not going to tell people not to do that. So we're not, for the next few minutes, we're not going to tell people, well, you can. I'm not going to tell people how to vote. But what I do want to say, but I do want to talk about playing off of what we just talked about, how about the system doesn't work anymore. I just fundamentally don't believe, I don't not believe in voting, but I don't believe that any of this fucking matters.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter. I believe a lot of it is, it's like the next president has already been determined. Like, it's gonna happen. I don't know who that is just yet, but it's already determined. This is a fucking game that they've reeled us into. And we, like puppets, every 4 years just go, and we don't even think, most Americans don't even think down ballot. They're just thinking at the very tippy top. And these people are not here to save us.
No.
Neither of them. And I say neither because I'm not even, like, the third party thing just hasn't gained enough traction to even, like, I have a lot of friends as well that are voting for Jill Stein. I think she's an opportunist. I think she's a grifter. I can't do the Jill Stein thing. Now, Butch Ware is a different story, but he's not running and he's going to be a VP. What I know about him, I kind of like. I think he's kind of that, like, buck the system sort of a person as well. But Jill Stein has spent her entire career not getting elected for stuff. She has spent her entire career, the last 25 years, making millions of dollars. Literally, her livelihood has come from convincing people to vote for her for a position that she's not going to get.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so my personal is like, again, vote for Jill. If you think that that's where vote needs to go, vote for Jill. At this point, I'm not voting for anyone because I am focused on not giving the system my vote and also focused on creating, like, actual legitimate community and figuring out a playbook for what we're going to do if and when empire falls. Because my problem with I'll let you talk in a second. My problem, I want to get all this out though. My problem with, I lean toward burn it all down. I lean toward just burn the whole fucking thing down, which is why I won't vote for Kamala. That might change in a week. I'm allowing myself to feel all the things, and in a week I might make a different decision. Right now, she has not done one goddamn thing to earn my vote. So what I want to talk with you about is, like, there's a lot of this, like, burn the system down, burn it all down, and I'm on board with that. But then I'm going to speak to myself and say, okay, Nick, if you're on board with burning everything down, what's your plan? What's the playbook? Because historically, all we have to do is look at all these types of revolutions and who gets fucked every single time: women, children, and minorities. So I'm starting to ask myself and everybody else, okay, I get it. Burn the whole thing down. Like, empire be gone. But what's our plan? Because right now, if empire falls, a lot of the people that we have worked tirelessly to protect and help are going to be the first to get fucked.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good deal either. I'm pro-revolution, but I'm pro-revolution with, like, I get it's going to be chaotic, but, like, can we have a plan for are there enough people bought into community, like real community, so that we can support each other through this? Because I don't see it. I feel like a lot of people pay lip service to community and to collective liberation, but push comes to shove, they're going to protect themselves, and they're going to fucking bolt, and they're not going to stay once the revolution dust begins to settle and there are bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Like, burn it all down, but also let's not burn it down because we're not ready for it.
Yeah.
We are not ready to deal with the fallout of the system toppling. Your thoughts?
Heavily burn it down, but also have a plan. I don't think that there's a reality in this country the way that this country is set up. I mean, think about in France. They burn the fucking city down in Paris like every weekend.
Yeah.
But they're, like, actually burn shit down. But it's not burning the system down.
No.
And I do think that in the US, and I talk about this frequently for years on the So page, we are trapped in such an individualistic society where people are more concerned, like, I'm more concerned about myself. I need to put my own oxygen mask on first before I can give a fuck about somebody else's.
Yep.
That thinking has been instilled in us on purpose so that we will never see something burn down. They want us to be more concerned about ourselves and not tap into community, not have community. and by they, I do mean like the fucking US government and
Yeah.
the people in power. That's how I view it. Is we have been like conditioned to only give a fuck about ourselves.
Yep.
And those of us who do tap into community and who we see the value in community and what that can mean in a burn it all down reality, we're like the fucking radical outcasts, right? And I like in the last year, especially, I reject that so much.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking radical. I think the people who are like more concerned about themselves,
100%.
you're the radical people.
Yeah.
These liberals who are like, I need to think if I want to say this. The other content creators, the liberals who are doing hotties for Kamala and having fucking vending machines of condoms with Kamala Harris's face on them parties, while I'm sitting and watching babies with their fucking
100%.
skulls blown up. And I'm saying, how the fuck can you mindlessly like vote for Kamala Harris? She put her platform out after months of me saying, not even months, it was like a month and a half. She doesn't even have a fucking platform.
No.
She doesn't have a plan. And in essence, the Democrats don't have a plan for us.
Yep.
She put her platform out and it wasn't a platform. It was quotes from her rallies and her interviews. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's direct quotes.
But what's your fucking plan, right? There's no plan.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I actually had like a falling out with a really good friend because of this, when he was like, well, if Kamala loses, what's your plan for Trump? What's your plan? What's your plan? And he kept pushing that. And I'm like, community and taking care of each other, mutual aid, and making sure that we're good and we're safe and we're not going to let the system under Trump, which will be fucking baby fascism, if not full-blown fascism.
Yep.
That's going to hurt people.
Yep.
I know that. Most logical people know what is going to happen under a Trump presidency. We know because we've lived it. And I think it's just going to be accelerated. But also Democrats have no plan.
Yeah.
They have no plan. And I think what is called the fringe left, so you and I, saying tap into community, take care of each other, make sure your neighbors are good, make sure your friends are good, make sure people are healthy and safe and have the avenues of health and not even wealth, but just like help. People need help. And the government is not going to help us under Kamala or Trump. They're not going to help us. So what is the plan is for both of them, for me. That's for me. I'm not thinking so far ahead because I don't think we're going to burn the system down anytime soon. I really don't. I don't think there's enough of us with that mindset who can even envision what a better future would look like. There's like you and I, we could talk about it.
Yep.
What is an ideal country? What would an ideal thriving society look like? And then we're called fucking crazy. We're called radical because not enough people are there yet.
Yeah, I mean, you went exactly where I wanted you to go. Because
that was a test.
Well, no, it wasn't a test, but it was like I wanted to. So I already have my answer, and you gave the answer, which is, I asked, like, do you have a plan? No, you can't have a plan for this until it starts to topple.
Yeah. Because
especially here, other places where they've experienced just tremendous amounts of suffering, they have a track record, and they've over time they've put together what it looks like to take care of each other.
Yeah.
We're in such a fucking bubble, and we're so privileged and everything. Like the other day I was having a conversation with a friend about these things, about voting or not voting or what, and just about what's going on, and she and I are very much on the same page, and we were sitting at Madison Square Park. And I was like, here we are talking about dismembered babies and a horrific genocide that we're paying for. And I just looked up and I'm around and I'm like, this is not real.
Yeah.
I love living in New York. I hope that I can figure out how to stay in, not leave this country because I want to leave every single day, and stay here in New York because this is the best place on earth. But it's not real.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's built with money that didn't belong to the person that built it. Mm-hmm. Like, none of this is real. It's so fucking fake. And so I don't think we're ever going to we can talk. And I have so many great friends here in Brooklyn, Joel Leon and Fred Joseph and others
I love Fred.
I love Fred so much. And like we can start to assemble a plan, but until you lose people that you love, and until your actual house burns down, and until you feel the pressure of, oh my God, what are we going to do? Then you start to put together the plan. Because until it's real, me talking about like you have a tattoo, with Toni Morrison, the function of freedom is to free someone else, right? Yeah. And I saw that on a picture somewhere, and I love that so much. And it reminded me of Nobody's Free Until Everybody's Free, Fannie Lou Hamer. Like, we're so privileged that we can only talk. Now, I have a little bit more, like, I grew up in Guatemala the last few years of a war. Like, I've seen people get murdered in front of me. They tried to kidnap me once. Like, I've seen some shit, but not like Palestine shit, like Guatemala shit. It's a little different, but it's still intense.
Yeah.
But those that haven't experienced that, this playbook that we're beginning to assemble about community and how to like take empire down and then survive it, it can't really be written until we can talk in theory.
Yeah.
But until like the rubber hits the fucking road, like you can't really see how you feel about it until you're actually experiencing it. Like, am I going to stick around, or am I going to be a self-centered white Westerner and just take off? You could say that you're all in, but in fact, a couple months ago, I was talking with a group of friends, again, amazing friends, but they're all with very few exceptions, all going to vote for Kamala. And this person that grew up in, I won't say the country in case they're listening, they grew up in another country that had experienced lots and lots of oppression. And his response to this conversation that I had sort of started there about like we have to get free. This is not freedom, what we're experiencing. He was like, I'll be honest, if shit hits the fan, I'm out. I'm grabbing my wife and my dog, and we are out. I'm not sticking around to fight. And it literally, like, part of me is like, I get that human reaction where you're like, I got to take care of my people. And also, I'm really surprised at that. Like, knowing your history and your people, that you would just like peace out the first chance you got, no apology, just like, I'm out, really made me question. Because he's a community builder. He's a professed like community builder, and like he teaches people how to live like very meaningful lives and this and that and the other. And I was like, I don't know if I believe you anymore. You know?
I don't know. I think it's multi-layered.
Yeah.
I think it's like my Palestinian friends. Why the fuck would they stay here and fight for this country after what they've been put through? Why the fuck would they do that? Like, I wouldn't blame them. I would get them plane tickets out of here. Like, there's absolutely no reason for oppressed people in this country to fight for a better reality. That's how I feel. And I know that that's like a crazy thing to say, but like, the onus shouldn't be on oppressed people to do the work to make a better reality, because they're not the ones creating the reality that we exist in already. So I feel like it's on privileged people, it's on white people, it's on wealthy people, it's on the people who would have the least to lose if everything burns down, to make sure that we're solid if it burns down. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Like, my brain is scrambled trying to get those words out, but like...
No, I completely agree. The person that I'm speaking of has lived a pretty privileged life.
Okay.
And again, if you're going to put yourself in the position of being someone that like is teaching people how to like create community. Yeah. Like, you got to, in my mind, put your money where your mouth is. Like, this person hasn't directly experienced oppression, just their ethnic background, where they're from. It's a lot of it there. So I agree with you. And maybe even for this individual I'm thinking of that I love and see all the time, I love this person. Maybe I need to change how I think about them. But the bottom line is, like, I just feel like, so yes, thank you for those thoughts. I totally agree. No, there are people that should not, cannot, should not, and are, it is not, they should not be compelled to make shit happen here. Yeah. This is not their fight. They came here probably being sold a false bill of goods about security and about safety and about everything. And they should get the fuck out as quickly as they possibly can. I guess just in the end, what I've been trying to communicate to people about the election is I honestly don't care. I'll say one more thing. I won't tell you who. I have a journalist friend who is Lebanese. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. He's amazing. Super left. And he told me, should I even say this? Yeah, I'll say it, because nobody will know who it is. He told me that he voted for Trump. Obviously, he hates Trump.
Yeah.
He voted for Trump as a vote for empire toppling.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's quicken the toppling of the empire. And that was the first person I'd encountered that did that. Like, I personally don't think I could smash that button or whatever we're going to have to do, fill it in. I would prefer at this point to like withhold my vote completely because, again, I don't believe in the system at all.
Yeah.
But I don't want to tell people where and how to vote. I just want people to be thinking, I want people when they go to the polls or don't go to the polls, it's, are you in? Are you in regardless of what comes? If there's bloodshed or if there is, however the empire topples, we love rooting on Katniss Everdeen, right? But like, I don't ever want to be in her position where she has to fight against empire. We love Luke Skywalker and we love all these movies that show us empire toppling. We love it. And we're always rooting for the terrorists. For those of you listening, I'm doing air quotes because they're not terrorists, they're resistance. But like, we love rooting for the resistance until it's our turn or until we see it happening in real life. And then we're like, nah, just like step in line, just like get back in line, shut up. Empire knows what's best for you. And I think we're coming to the end of that. I really do. I don't know if it's like now or 4 years or 8 years or 12 years. That's all current day for me. Like that's in our lifetime. But I think it's coming.
Yeah. I believe it. I think for what it's worth, if it's worth anything, I'm fucking in for it. And the thing is, if you're out on the streets with us every week, especially here in New York City, I know it's happening other places, but in New York City, what we're experiencing and what we're witnessing at the hands of the NYPD and the fucking politicians that are like okaying it and they're fine with it and they're actually encouraging more of it. If you were out at any of the encampments, if you've seen what I have seen and you're still out every week, you're for the shit. You're going to be there when the empire falls. Like those are the people.
I agree.
And people ask me all the time on the So page, like, I don't know how to tap in a community. Go out.
Yeah.
Get out on the streets.
Yeah.
Those are your fucking people.
100%.
Those are your people. If empire falls tomorrow, I know who I'm calling. Yeah. I have my people because they're already out on the streets anyways.
And regardless of where you live, like I get it that we see it in abundance here. We have so many allies, right, in the resistance movement. But anywhere. Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you, whatever small town you live in, whatever red state you live in, you can like get out. Like the internet is your friend. Like you will find groups that are resisting empire in all sorts of ways. They might be 3 people, but that's your community. Yeah. Whether you're marching, whether you're making content, whatever you're doing, showing up at a meeting, getting arrested, like whatever it is, like you can, again, I don't care where you are, name your city, name your town, name your red, whatever, you can find people. Yeah. Yeah. So find those people. Cause if and when empire begins to topple, like those will be your people that will look after you and you'll look after them. Even if your family flees, even if your church friends flee, cause they're going to flee probably.
The first ones.
They'll be the first ones to go.
Yeah. I think, I'm also very much like, I've told no one who to vote for. Yeah. I've been pushing ballot measures because I think those are important.
100%.
Those are going to have the most impact on your day-to-day life.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not telling people who to vote for. I've literally been going with you do what you feel you have to do.
Amen.
Do what you got to do. And do not browbeat somebody else who feels like they have to do what they have to do.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yep. Okay. We did a lot.
We did.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Obviously, people, if they just even if they type "so" into their Instagram, your page will come up. But what else do you want people to know about what you're doing? Where else to find you besides Instagram, or is just Instagram where you want people to go?
Instagram is all I can handle, to be honest with you. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instagram. Find me on Instagram. So Informed. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.